for today's topic, output determination on the short run. So, ang objective ng topic na to is to be able to calculate total marginal and average revenue to understand the key difference between total revenue, marginal revenue, and average revenue. And lastly is the calculation of profit and loss in the short run. So, i-define muna natin kung ano nga ba yung meaning ng mga total revenue, average revenue, and marginal revenue at kung paano ba sila makuha. Total revenue, the total amount of revenue earned by a firm. It is calculated by multiplying price times quantity sold. So, TR, which is the total revenue, equals price times the quantity. So, for example, yung firm nagbenta ng 100 units for 5 pesos 5 pesos each. Then, yung total revenue is equals to 500. Kasi 100 units times 5 is equals to 500. So, ganun lang kasimple yung total revenue. Average revenue, the average revenue received per item sold. It is equal to total revenue divided by quantity sold. So, ang formula na is AR, which is the average revenue, equals TR, total revenue divided by Q, yung quantity. So, sa madaling salita, yung average revenue, siya yung price ng product. Marginal revenue, the additional revenue earned from the sale of an additional unit. It is calculated, marginal revenue equals change in total revenue divided by change in quantity. So, mamaya magkakaroon tayo ng illustration para malaman ba natin kung ano nga ba yung marginal revenue na sinasabi dito. Kasi mas madali natin maintindihan kapag may mga examples. So, yung first table is the price, which is the average revenue. So, as you can see, as the price falls, quantity increases. So, the total revenue is a simple multiplication of the price and quantity. It gives us $0 at $20 and $40 at price of $8. Kung nakita nyo yung total revenue ay nag-increase nung una pero nabawasan nung $8 na yung price. So, this is helpful in calculating marginal revenue. So, we look at the change total revenue and divided by the change in quantity. So, we can calculate marginal revenue at quantity 0, but we see the total revenue rises to $18. Pero, makikita natin na yung revenue ay mamamaximize lang hanggang sa $12. So, dapat hindi na bumaba siya ng $12 para ma-maximize yung revenue. So, ngayon, magpa-plot naman tayo ng average revenue at marginal revenue para makita yung relation nila. So, now, let's plot the data. So, yung right na corner ay yung for reference. So, for each price, we'll check the associated quantity and then place a mark. If we connect each point, we arrive at our demand curve, which is also our average revenue curve. This is the case because we assume that the firm consistently sells at the same price in order to sell a certain amount of a product. We do the same thing for marginal revenue and plot the points corresponding to the related quantity. The main thing different we do here is plot the points in between the quantity, and this is our normal approach for marginal revenues. Now we connect all the dots and build our marginal revenue curve. The unusual thing here is the marginal revenue curve cuts the x-axis and is negative. The importance of this will be more relevant as we proceed through this part of the course. Plotting them together reveals two lines that grow in distance the higher the level of output. When looking at the demand and marginal revenue together, this diagram is most commonly what you're going to encounter. The marginal revenue curve is twice as steep as the average revenue curve. If you're in So ngayon, i-analyze din yung graph. So as we dig deeper into market structures and their corresponding diagrams. In this diagram, we see the total revenue curve for a firm facing a downward curve. As we saw in our table earlier, total revenue increases towards a maximum then starts to decrease. To think about it another way, total revenue increases as marginal revenue is positive and peaks when marginal revenue is zero. Beyond this point, the sale of additional unit takes away from that maximum and slowly reduces total revenue. So we want to illustrate the relationship between these two diagrams that you should be able to understand after studying the AS videos and getting more comfortable with average and marginal revenue. The demand curve itself is elastic, unitary, elastic, and inelastic. The initial portion highlighted in yellow in the elastic portion of the demand curve. This results in an increase in total revenue as the price falls. Rising total revenue will continue to the point at which PED is equal to 1. Here, total revenue is maximized. Beyond this point, the PED is inelastic, which means any further lowering of price decreases total revenue. In a situation of perfect competition, whether a company earns profits or suffers losses depends on whether the price is greater or less than the average cost of production. To maximize profits in perfect competition, a firm must set its production output such that marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. However, maximizing profits does not necessarily mean that the economic profit will be earned that. So it depends on whether or not total revenues are greater or less than total cost. That in turn depends on whether the price set by the market for a unit of a product is greater or less than the average cost per unit of producing that product incurred by the firm. So the equivalency of these two ways of conceptualizing and calculating profit and losses can be stated as profit in equal to total revenues minus total cost, or we could rewrite the total equation as profit is equal to price per unit times quantity produced minus average cost per unit times quantity produced. Because to have quantity produced in common, we have factored out that portion of the equation in both sides and rewrite the profit equation as price per unit minus average cost per unit multiplied by the quantity produced. Using these equations, when the price per unit is greater than the average cost per unit, the firm is earning an economic profit from selling its output. Conversely, when the price per unit is less than the average cost per unit, the firm is operating at a loss even though it has maximized the amount of possible profit, though setting its output levels at the point where marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. For example, suppose a candy bar company is producing candy bars for which the market price is $1. If the average cost of producing 80 candy is 60 cents, the firm finishes with a profit because price is greater than the average total cost at the profit maximizing point. Suppose instead the market price drops to 40 cents per day bar, but the average cost of producing and selling a candy bar is 55 cents at the optimal quantity. The firm is operating at a loss. If prices are equal to the minimum average total cost, then the firm will break even and earn no economic profit.